What if there was one thing that you could do to bring you closer to freedom in living? That is what I'm talking with my friend, Julie McFadden, hospice nurse Julie, on the show, who is on the show today, all about. So if you don't know hospice nurse Julie, I had her on the show a couple years ago. She is an incredible TikTok star. That's not her claim to fame, but she is all over TikTok, YouTube with these incredible educational videos about hospice and what it looks like as we move closer to death and how really facing that can free us. And last year she had a new book come out called Nothing to Fear. And this summer she's got a new journal to go along with it called Nothing to Fear Journal, which is really a space to think about and reflect on your mortality. It is an incredibly profound opportunity to really think about how you live your life. And as always, I don't know that Julie can have a bad conversation with anyone, but I think we had an awesome conversation, just a lot of fun. She's so genuine. She's so authentic. And we talked about the miracle and the mystical experience of actually dying, the biological experience of actually dying, and how that is a spiritual experience, but also the spiritual experiences that we usually talk about this show and how profound those have been in her life and how they've shaped her beliefs about death. So with that, I bring you today's interview with hospice nurse Julie.
We need at our table of awareness the logician, but equally we need the intuitive, we need the mystic.
I almost died. I was allowed to go to the very precipice of death, of life and death, and look over the edge. And I was allowed to behold what was there and allowed to come back. Most people aren't.
When we talk about being aligned with ourself or being aligned with our soul or hearing our higher self, that's really what we're talking about, is being connected to that divine part of ourself, that light-filled part of us that is connected to God energy, that is connected to everybody here and every experience we've ever had.
If more doctors, more professionals can open up to use intuitive gifts in their work, that's really important.
Hi, I'm Dr. Amy Robbins, and welcome to Life, Death, and the Space Between. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and medium, and here we explore life, death, mediumship, near-death experiences, consciousness, and what it all means. Welcome back to one of my most favorite guests, because I just think we have so much fun just bantering as we were doing off camera. And I'm like, I might as well just hit record and people can hear this. So welcome back, hospice nurse Julie.
Hello. I'm so happy to be here and to chit chat. That's what we said. Let's just chit chat together.
We're just going to chit chat.
I don't record us chit chatting.
Right. We don't even know what we're going to chit chat about. I don't normally chit chat on this show. I normally am like so focused and ask questions, but I just we're just going to go with it today because that's how we're both feeling. But since I last talked to you, we do have to talk a little bit about this. You have a new book out. Yes. Nothing to Fear, and a new journal that goes along with the book. Nothing to Fear journal.
Yes, thanks to everybody. You know, my book has been out for a year. I made the New York Times bestselling list, which is like truly unbelievable to me.
Well, you're like a TikTok
thank you to everybody.
Star, TikTok and YouTube star.
Thank you. Yes. I mean, that does help, I think. Like all of my followers, I thank all the time. I'm like, thank you so much for being so supportive. So my book was out, and while the book was out, we decided to make a journal. We call it a journal, but it's like a workbook, right? It's called the Nothing to Fear Journal that is out now. It just released, I think, June 17th. So June 17th, it's out. And I always tell people, you can do the journal by itself. You don't need the book to do the journal / workbook, or you can do the book with the journal. I just think it's a really good add-on to, you know, reading the book, educating yourself about death and dying, and then kind of being like, well, now what? Like, now what am I supposed to do? The journal and workbook will help with that.
So what is it that we don't have to fear? Because people are scared of death.
Right. So the whole point of Nothing to Fear is to talk about not fearing death. But I do give a caveat in the book about how it's not totally nothing to fear. Of course, I actually do think that there's nothing to fear, but it's also very normal to fear. So the whole book is basically kind of normalizing our scared feelings around death and dying, and then educating about death and dying to help decrease that fear. The reason why I can say it's nothing to fear is because I'm around it all the time. I really understand it biologically. I've seen some pretty mystical, that's a lack of better word, mystical, magical, kind of crazy things that happen at the end of life very often, which has led me to also not fear death as much. So it's not nothing to fear. It's normal to fear. But I also think that education helps decrease and demystify, what death is.
So if people don't know Hospice Nurse Julie, it's so funny because I forget where I was. I think I was like getting a procedure done or something. And they were talking about this hospice nurse. And I was like, Hospice Nurse Julie? And they were like, yes, Hospice Nurse Julie. And I was like, I'll call you a friend. I feel like we're friends.
Yeah, we're friends.
Yeah. I'm like, she's a friend of mine. They're like, you're friends with Hospice Nurse Julie? I'm like, yeah, she's amazing. Okay. So you literally have made, like, you're a TikTok star on death and dying.
That's crazy. I mean, even you saying that to me is kind of like, really? Am I? I don't know. I mean, yeah, the whole thing has happened pretty organically, not pretty organically, totally organically. No plan, no ideas. I had like 5 ideas of what I wanted to say. The 4th one went viral, and then I just kept talking, and it's been 4 years now. So it's like, TikTok is definitely where it started, and I'll be forever grateful. But I gotta say, TikTok, I'm sorry to say this, I love watching TikTok as a consumer, but as a creator, it's not my favorite, Amy. It's not my favorite. So I like YouTube more. I like Instagram more. I am on Facebook too. And my followers on Facebook are like ride or die, so TikTok is like where I started, and I still post there all the time. I'm still part of it, but I think a lot of creators on TikTok would agree with me. It's like hard to keep it up. There's like something so magical about it because you can go viral, but then there's also like this like uncontrolled feeling of like, it just doesn't make sense sometimes. And then they give you, I've gotten a lot of heat on TikTok from TikTok itself saying like my stuff is inappropriate and
on
I've gotten warnings. Yeah.
So
and there's no way to appeal it. There's no way to appeal it either because for whatever reason, the community guidelines that I'm like getting hit with, I can't appeal it. Anyway, the whole point is TikTok. Thank you for giving me a following, and I still will post, and I still post there. But I really try to like not put my focus there because it'll drive you crazy. I don't know if you feel that way.
I'm not like really on TikTok.
Okay, well that's good because it'll drive you crazy.
But what do you think made you go so viral? I mean, obviously you've got a great personality for it, but what is it? What is it? The death? Is it the mysticism around death? Is it both? I mean, you really struck a nerve with people, right? I mean, there's something, and if you didn't listen to my first podcast with Julie, go listen to it now or listen to it after this. But, in that story, you shared this crazy angel story that you've shared. I think it's been one of your most watched stories. Yeah. So clearly there is something with this mysticism around death.
Well, what's funny, now that you say that, I want to go listen to that interview because you were one of like, I feel like you interviewed me like right when it was all starting.
Mm-hmm.
It would be interesting.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. I think because I didn't get into like the stories of like me seeing an angel and like my shared death experience for years. I was on TikTok for probably 2 years.
Wait, what was your shared death experience? We didn't get into that.
Oh, okay. I'll tell you in a second because I want to say why I think the first few videos that were just truly about like the biology of death and dying, why those went viral. I think people say death is such a taboo topic and no one wants to talk about it. And I do agree because in my face-to-face real life, my friends, family, they don't want to talk to me about my job or hear what I have to say. But I think when social media helps it be like slightly removed, So I'm not like in your living room talking to you face to face, kind of like almost feeling like confronting you, but you can kind of watch passively. And I think there's something about that makes it easier, because I was just as surprised that people started following. I mean, one video went viral and I had 10,000 followers in one night, overnight. And then I had like 100,000 in a month, 1 million in a year. You know, it was like, it happened pretty rapidly. And from what we keep saying to like in our culture, it seems like we don't want to talk about death, which I think is true. But I think people want to learn about it, maybe passively in their home, like under their control. They can stop the video if they want. They can come back to it if they want. So
if it's too much for them, they can kind of mitigate their relationship with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So those initial videos were more about the biological pieces of death and what happens biologically, which I think people want to know too, because I think people are scared of what they're going to experience and feel.
Totally. I think that is the most fascinating part about death and dying, is like the biology of it.
Not the mysticism of it.
We can get in. What was that?
Not the mysticism of it?
No. I mean, that's also crazy and interesting, which we can get into, but what makes me most not afraid of death is the biology of death and how our bodies help us die. Like, our bodies are built to die and they have built-in mechanisms to help us do it. That to me, because ultimately at the end of the day, all the things that I've witnessed that are unexplainable are amazing, but they're still unexplainable, and who knows what they really are, right? I don't feel like they give me comfort, but not as much comfort as like knowing that my body will take care of me at the end of my life.
But isn't that
if I
mystical?
happen to die a death on hospice? Now, maybe not if I'm like hit by a car or something. I don't know. But,
right. But isn't that mystical?
That is
like, as you're talking,
it is, but it's also biological. I mean,
but that's mystical. Like,
but that's also
to me, like,
right.
how is this thing that is created intuitively know exactly what it needs to do when you're born and when you die?
Yeah, that's a very good point. Very good point. Yeah.
So what are the things that you are so enthralled by as the body dies?
Well, let's see. You know, as our body starts cluing in with itself somehow, some way that it's dying, it will start making us sleep more. So everyone at the end of life will sleep more, whether that's due to calcium levels rising, which that does happen, or just the body being weaker and more tired. But really, I think that's a good thing, because think about it. How many people say, like, I wish I could just go to sleep and die? Like, it's the process of death that really scares me, when really the process of death is like, you start sleeping all the time and you're not hungry and thirsty. Period.
Right.
Period. Now,
but I think that the fear is, and as you're talking about this, I'm thinking like, are they thinking, I wish I wasn't sleeping so much? Like, I wish I was living more? Or is it just like, you're just in this sleep state and that's just where you are and that's okay?
That's a good point. So I think once you're getting very close to death, like the actively dying phase, I don't think the consciousness is really online. I don't think you're really consciously being like, I wish I could get up. I wish I could, because I don't think your consciousness is really aware. But prior to that, yes, that could be a difficult part if you're really fighting the process. But, you know, I mean, the patients that I have, they might not be telling me, but a lot of them aren't saying that. A lot of them are not saying that. And especially when I say to them, let your body be the guide. If your body is wanting you to rest, rest. I mean, I know I have an internal voice that tells me, don't be lazy, get up, you should be doing things, you know? So like, if that's at play, yes, that may be hard. Mm-hmm. But if you start knowing and understanding, like, hey, this is my body telling me what it needs. And what it needs right now is a lot of sleep. You also have the hunger and thirst mechanism that turns off. So they're not laying there being like, I wish I could eat. I wish I could drink. The body turns it off. Like, you don't feel hungry. You don't really feel thirsty. So I would say, listen to that. If you want to drink, drink. If you don't want to drink, don't. If you want to eat, eat. If you don't, don't. And the more you listen to that, the better it usually goes. Now, there are certain diseases you can die from. So I don't want to make it like, oh, it's just so pretty and perfect all the time. You know, certain diseases give you many symptoms: pain, nausea and vomiting, shortness of breath. But that's why hospice is there to kind of help with those things. Mm-hmm. But if we're just talking about what are the things that make me feel like, wow, our bodies are pretty cool, and like, look what it does for us. Those are the things, you know, knowing when to shut down, knowing that a dehydrated body feels better. So our bodies like literally try to get us dehydrated, because if we're dehydrated, if we're dying, not if we're a healthy human being, we don't want to be dehydrated. But if we are dying, the body knows we're dying, and being dehydrated makes you feel better. Your body can go into ketosis. It releases endorphins. It dulls pain. So there's all types of things the body can do that helps us.
You know, what's so interesting as you're talking is I'm thinking about like, if we only lived like we were dying in this way, because if we listen to our body in the way that you can't fight your body when you're dying, think of what things would look like, right? Like if you slept when you were late, when you were tired, you wouldn't be thinking I'm so lazy. You would just be like, my body needs rest. This is what I need to do. But we've been so programmed away from all of that.
Oh my gosh. Yes. We've been so, I mean, that's a whole, I could go on and on about the programs we've been taught by our society. Like thinking about like working 40 hours a week, and most people work way more than 40 hours a week. Mm-hmm. I think that's so bogus that we're supposed to work 40 hours a week, 2 weeks paid vacation, all of it. I mean, the whole construct of like how we're supposed to be living to me is
fucked up.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend yesterday, and she was saying she was getting so excited for her vacation and she was going to take some time to do work. And I was like, I get it, because I sometimes feel that way. It's like when I can escape, I can actually, and the remnants of all of life are away. I feel like I can focus. And what does that say about our society, that we feel like we have to go on vacation in order to finish the work we can't do?
In order to finish work, right. And why do we have to go on vacation from a life that we lead? Like, I think this idea of like going on vacation to finally feel free or something, do you know what I mean? It's like, no, I don't want to go on vacation from my life. I get the idea of going on vacation and traveling and seeing things, you know, and like, you can't have a life every day where you're like laying on the beach. Yes. And I wouldn't even want that. But I don't like that we live in a world where like the vacation is the answer or something. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like, no, how do we live?
I have to escape my life rather than living a life that doesn't feel like you need to escape from it.
Yes. And I know that comes from a place of privilege that I can even think this way, right? That I even can think about this. Tells me I'm privileged.
Right. Well, I think a lot of people think about it. They just can't do it. Like they can't do it. That's the American dream, right? It's dreaming of like that you have enough money that you can have the privilege to think about what a life would look like without the constraints of life.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think I really do feel like contemplating our own I always say this, contemplating our own mortality on a day-to-day basis will help us live a life that we want. And I know that may sound morbid to some people. And I don't mean to like focus on like, 'cause you're gonna die, right? It's more about this like acceptance and like true knowing that I will be gone someday. And with that knowledge, how do I want this day that I'm in right now to be? And I don't personally go, okay, well, if I'm going to die, that means I should jump out of an airplane, quit my job, go on vacation, live in a hut in Tahiti. I don't know. It does sound kind of great. But
I was going to say, it sounds amazing, but
yeah, what it does to me is say like, how can I be, because for me, it's all about presence. Like, how can I like, knowing that I'm going to die, appreciate the fact that I'm not dead yet. One, like the smell of my coffee, the enjoyment of the sunlight, me being able to walk to the grocery store, talk on the phone, see people, whatever it is in this day, right? if you have to work, like not taking my job for granted, trying to be of service at my job. If it is truly a job that's killing me on a day-to-day basis in the present moment, how can I take steps to get out of that job? And what other thing would I want to do? So,
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I think
yeah.
a contemplative death practice is one of the most profound practices. Also because I think it changes the nature of your relationships, because you think about, if I were to die tomorrow, is this how I want the people who I loved to feel? Like, do I want them to feel like we just had this blow up fight and I said something really nasty to them? Or do they want to feel loved from me?
Right. Exactly. And I think that's where the journal came in. So the journal is broken up into 4 parts.
Nice segue back to the journal.
Yeah, right.
Good job.
Thank you. It really does fit, because the first part of the journal is like the existential stuff, like learning how to existentially talk and think about death to help you live. It's about living to help you live in the day that you're in, right? And then the other 2 and 3, they talk more about like, how do you talk to someone who's dying? How do you help someone who's dying? How can you help yourself? What do you say to yourself? So it's about like the communication around it. And then the last part is the real practical part of like practical steps, things to do, what to write down, who to tell what you want to. So there's like, it's like a real, oh, Amy, this is why I'm bad at this stuff. What is it?
Oh,
it's like not full circle, but like, it hits all the points.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
It's a practical, and it's also a little more maybe philosophical, psychological. Yes. It sounds like you've got here's like the DNR rules, which you should probably not just put in your journal, but maybe talk to a lawyer about it. Cause I'm not sure if someone shows up with your journal, they're going to be like, oh, great.
That. The journal gives you like step by step, like do this, then this, then this, then this. Right. And so it's like the black and white stuff to make you feel in control, even though you're not.
And let me tell you, right. Go ahead. Sorry.
And then like the more, how can I get more comfortable with death so it doesn't need to be black and white?
Well, and I have to say, so my husband and I recently redid like all of our wills and our DNRs and everything. And we had to go meet with the attorney to finalize and sign off on everything. And even someone like me who's pretty comfortable with death, even that, it's like, it's there, right? They're asking you like, if this is going to happen, who do you want to take your kids? And then you have to really think about like, and if they're not available, who's next? And then they ask you like, do you want a DNR? If you are, I mean, you know this, right? Like if you are at this state, do you want to be resuscitated? If you are at this state, do you want to be resuscitated? And then you're really faced with answering those real questions, because you're like, if someone is standing there, they don't have to make that decision. That decision's made, but I'm making that decision now from a place of not wanting to die, but I have to think about. And so you're like, oh, I walk around all the time and I'm like, just pull the plug. I don't want to live like that. But then when I'm sitting in front of the attorney about to sign my papers and he's like, so you want to have the plug pulled? And I'm like, yes, I do. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Do I?
Do.
Like, do I?
Do I? Yes, exactly. Wait, right. Do I?
Like, what if there's that one small, teeny tiny chance that I could come back or whatever it is? So it is a very, very profound experience. And we ended up, I can't remember what was said, but something was said that it was a joke. And he had witnesses there as well, because they need witnesses when you're signing all of this. And I made some joke about like saying that my husband could just wheel me around like Weekend at Bernie's and like just keep me like taxidermied in my life. And we all started cracking up to the point where we were basically peeing in our pants, which is not a hard threshold for me to meet. But and the assistants or the witnesses who weren't supposed to laugh like could not keep it together. Nor could the lawyer. And I think it was just one of those experiences where it's like, you have to kind of see like the levity of these situations, because otherwise it can feel so heavy. Yeah.
Yeah. And just so everyone knows, you can always change what you want, right? So
not if you're almost dead.
Oh, no, not if you're almost dead. But I mean, like, say you're doing this now, right? Because I am 42 and I'm doing it at 42. My choices at 42 are going to be different than 82 if I live to 82. So I need to make sure that I'm updating what I want because I'm going to be a little more aggressive the younger I am. Me personally, not everyone has to be, but, and so you can always change it. But you're right. Yeah. You're right. If something happens to you the next day, no, you can't.
Right.
No, you can't.
Right. Yeah. And it is just it's a really profound experience to have to say that out loud. It's one thing to think it. It's one thing to you and I to joke about it on the podcast or talk about it, but then to actually sit there and like sign the papers that say, if this happens to me, this is what I want to happen.
Good for you for doing it. Good for you for doing it.
Well, it's hard, but I feel like it has to be done. Otherwise, you leave people you love with really, really challenging choices. And even then, I think they're still going to be there can still be really complicated feelings, but at least it's clear what I would have wanted.
Yep. And that's the reason, like that shouldn't be the only reason, but I think if people have a hard time doing it, do it for that reason. You do it for the people around you. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to have siblings fighting. So you don't have to have people thinking you killed mom. It's like, no, mom wanted this. Mm-hmm. This is what she said. It's in black and white, so it's a really good point.
Do you find a lot of that at end of life like that? I mean, obviously by the time you get there, they've called in hospice, but is that because the person who is dying has said, I want hospice, or the family? Can there be infighting still at that stage?
Definitely can still be fighting at that stage. A lot of times. I mean, we usually all get to a good place. That's what, we have the social worker come in, maybe we'll have the doctor and myself, we'll all get together if the family's willing to, and we'll try to talk to everybody about it. There's usually like one main caregiver who's if there's a lot of siblings, one sibling has taken over mom and dad's care or dad's care. And then depending on their disease and stuff, it's like, they understand what's going on, right? But then all of a sudden people from out of town come in because they hear dad's on hospice. Now all the siblings are coming in and they're kind of like, what's going on? Why would you say this? Why aren't we doing what? So usually once they get educated, they're all like, okay, yeah, we understand. But sometimes there's that rogue sibling who just doesn't want to, and it can cause a lot of issues.
Right. At a very, very fragile time.
Yeah. And family dynamics don't get better at the end of life. They usually, if you've already had a complicated family dynamic, that can be like amped up.
Yeah. I'll never forget Steve Leder on an interview I did with him said people die like they lived. So like, don't expect that like your mom or dad is going to get towards the end and suddenly they're going to have the epiphany that they're like horribly sorry for the way that they treated you. That's often not the case.
Yes. I've just did a bunch of videos about that. Yeah. They're not going to, if people weren't emotionally, even if they weren't like bad parents or bad, but if they weren't emotionally mature or vulnerable, if they weren't able to be vulnerable, usually just because they're dying, they usually aren't going to suddenly be able to like fully discuss how they feel and say their goodbyes. And sometimes it softens people, but people die, like he said, people die the way they lived. Mm-hmm. So, setting, not having expectations on people.
Right. So I think that even gives more credence to the contemplative death practice, because if you can start practicing that now, maybe you can soften a little bit as you move towards death, whenever that is.
Yeah.
Okay. I have another question. I might have asked you this before, but I don't remember. Do we have studies about, does hospice prolong life? Because I think a lot of times people think hospice is just, you go there to die. Obviously you can't do a controlled study because you can't have the same person in hospice and not in hospice, going through treatment and see what works better. But what has been your experience? I mean, you've seen so many people, and but people get to the point often where they say, okay, I've exhausted all my options. I'm going to move into hospice. But I think sometimes people also say, I don't want to go down all those options. I just want to start hospice. Do you have a sense for what, if one, and I know it's going to be different, but like if one can keep you alive longer, like if you're going through cancer treatment and you're, having chemo and radiation and all of this versus just having hospice and riding out life, do we know like what the potential differential is in endpoints?
Well, okay. I'll talk about there have been a couple studies done, which I don't have like all of the information. I just know like what they found, right? With certain studies, they have found because I think they had to stick with one disease, right? So like, it's like specific to like lung cancer. And I don't know why they picked that, right? So, but I'm sure they had to do one disease specifically because there's so many factors,
right?
But they have found that there are certain diseases, again, probably because they had to pick one, and lung cancer was it, where people who get on hospice earlier live longer than people who choose not to go on hospice and continue with treatment. Now, they said lung cancer, again, just because I think they had to pick a disease to study. But I think they said something like 30, and of course, it's not much longer, right? It's like 30 days longer. But I think people often think, you don't go on hospice until you're like almost taking your last breath. And that is not what hospice is for. Hospice is for, you're likely dying no matter what happens in the next 6 months or so. And we're trying to help you have like a good 6 months, meaning like not being in and out of the hospital, not being on a bunch of chemo meds that are going to make you sick, and having your symptoms controlled so you can live out the rest of your life the best you can. That is really what hospice is about. And I always talk about how it depends on what kind of cancer you get, right? And I'm not an oncologist and I've never been an oncology nurse, so it's hard for me to give specifics. But generally speaking, because I was an ICU nurse for so long, so I did see a lot of things like this. Generally speaking, if you get diagnosed with some form of cancer, there's usually some kind of standard of care, meaning like standard treatment. This is what we usually do. Colorectal cancer, depending on what it is and where it's found, but like usually surgery, chemo, radiation. And the standard of care will give you a likelihood of living X amount longer or whatever, right? I would always say, of course, like listen to your doctors. And I would always say, do the standard of care if you want to, right? To help extend your life. And then there comes a time, and not with all cancers, but some cancers will end up being terminal, where that's where I think we go a little too far. We keep going, they hit a mark and something's not working. And then they keep going. Well, we can try this. We can try this. We can try this. I think that's where they miss the mark. They meaning our healthcare system. People are just listening to what the doctors are saying, right? Where I think hospice at least needs to be talked about as an option, not as a last resort, not as oh no, that means I'm dying. It's like, no, yes, you are dying. And you're going to, we all are. And then this cancer that you have is technically probably going to be the reason why you are eventually. And eventually you should look at how you'd want to spend the last 6 months of your life. I think it's not talked about as boldly, as plainly as that. So all people hear is like, well, we can try this. Well, we can try, that's all and they're like, okay. Whereas it's like, and again, it's very patient specific. It's very disease specific. So it's hard to give a general answer for that because it is, certain diseases, I would say something different, right? It depends on what cancer it is, how long you've had it, what the options are. Well, and that's just with cancer. There's other terminal diseases. So,
well, and then there becomes kind of competing interests. Not that doctors don't always do what's in the best interest of their patients, but there is that, well, I want to make sure that my patients have great outcomes and that they survive X amount of time with the treatment. And if I refer them to hospice, in some way I've lost.
And they have a bias too. This is all they do. So It's like their blinders are on to, this is what I do, right? And my hospice blinders are on, well, this is what I do, And of course, I think mine are right. And I do. Even now, I still am like, yeah, but mine really are. It's like, that's not fair. Because I was an ICU nurse for so long, I'm so into like, no, we need to be more honest. We need to just say, you're dying. If you know you're dying, what do you want to do? And it's not that black and white. It's not that simple. I have to remember that.
Right.
And,
because there's so many factors, like I was saying before, even in just signing that document, so much that gets stirred up when you feel like you've surrendered, like you've sort of lost the battle, right? Like everything is a battle. And when you go into hospice, you've given up.
And it's like, I have a doctor here telling me that maybe another round of radiation might really help. It's going to be really hard for someone to go, no, it's okay. I'm not going to take that chance. I'm going to go on hospice and live out the rest of my life. It's easy for me to say that's what you should do.
Right.
But I think because I work in healthcare, that I see all the people who do choose to do the final treatment. And it's usually not beneficial, right? So that's why it's easier for me to go, no, just don't do it. Just don't do that final treatment. Just go into hospice. It's easier for me. But I think also that's the oncologist's job too, because I know that they see the things too. So it's like, and maybe they have a different view of it, but I feel like they've seen enough people do that final treatment. It's like, is it really worth it? And how honest are you being about that?
Right. And what are the risks?
And what are the risks?
Right. I always feel like it's that final treatment that then, again, this is just through my own lens, which is the psychological lens. It's like they did that one thing and then the whole body shut down, and it's not the cancer that kills them, but they stroke out, and then they have, then they're in the hospital on all these kinds of monitors. And then hopefully you signed your DNR because there you are.
And then you have somewhat of a sudden death that's hospitalized. I don't know. I just think there's a better way, I just think there's a better way, which I think is hospice. And I think the more people really understand the progression of their disease and the treatments that they're getting, the more likely they would go, that's okay. I think I'll go home. But it's so much like, again, like you said, the verbiage of like, I've lost the battle. She's given up. There's not, it's like they don't do that.
Right.
And that's where I'm like, oh, that's why, that is like a lot of the reason why I took to social media to help start educating people about things like this. So it might not feel so foreign to them, meaning like they've heard this word hospice before. They've seen a nurse on TikTok talking about it before. Maybe it's not that bad.
Well, and maybe they can ask about it because maybe
maybe they can ask about it.
Anything, right?
Yeah.
How many people want hospice nurse Julie to be their hospice nurse? And Penny and Hadley, I would say, right? Like you guys are
my gosh,
the trifecta of hospice nurses. Yeah. Okay, so I want to shift gears here and go mystical, spiritual. Okay. What is the shared death experience?
Yeah, so that one's in my book. It's in my chapter. Chapter 6 is all of the, actually, is it in chapter 6? Anyway, chapter 6 is like all the phenomena part, right? Like all of the things that happen at the end of life. And it's my longest chapter because there's a lot of it. So my shared death experience, I didn't share for years, and I didn't even know it was called a shared death experience until I shared it. And then someone told me about, that's what this is called. It's about one of my patients. I call him Randy. That's obviously not his name, but that's what we call him in the book. And Randy was a younger patient that came on to hospice, and he had a lot of mental health issues prior to coming onto hospice and while he was on hospice. But it was like, because he got this like terminal diagnosis, he was almost ready to kind of like give over and get help for his mental health stuff too. So when we came in, he was in an unsafe environment. He lived alone, super isolated, huge hoarder. So he was not safe, right? We walked in and we were kind of like, oh boy, this guy needs some help here, right? We can't let him live in this place. It's not safe for him. And he had been living there for years by himself. No family, no friends because of mental health stuff, right? So as a hospice team, we really pulled together. We found like distant cousins somewhere who came and like helped clean out his apartment. And because he was like surrendering to all of this, he finally let people do it, let people help him. And by the time I came back like a week later to see him, it was like a new place and a new person. It was wild. He looked freer. He looked happier. He was in this like bright apartment now. And it was just so surprising. I say all this because it was so surprising to see him change so much for the better in like 1 week with being on hospice. And he ended up living a lot longer than he technically should have for what he would have, for what disease he had. And I say we, because there was a whole hospice team involved, you know, home health aide, social worker, me, the chaplain, the doctor, we all got close to Randy. And he was pretty asymptomatic, which again, very strange for the disease he had, for a long time. And I would go there and we'd just like chit chat, like me and you, but about like spiritual things too. Like he would talk about what he thought happened after we died and his fears and his, you know, his life and how he feels sad that he like is dying now and now finally feels like he's living, right? But he's dying.
It's like the dying freed him to live.
Yeah. And I say all this to say, like, we all just got really close to him. And then once he got to the very end of his life, when he was actively dying, meaning like unconscious and getting very close to death, we had a continuous care nurse, which is the nurse that stays with him 24/7 in the house to help manage his symptoms. And because I was the RN case manager, you visit every day when someone's actively dying. So I was there every day. And on this last day, I could tell like, okay, today's going to be the day. I could tell the way he was breathing, like he was going to die today. And he was unconscious. And I sort of said my goodbyes mentally in my head and then told the continuous care nurse, like, hey, can you text me when he dies? Just so like, I know. She's like, sure. So I go to my car.
I'm remembering this story. I'm remembering this, but I don't remember the beginning details of it.
I probably don't know. I don't always tell them because sometimes the story's already long, so it makes it even longer. But
no, but I think it's so important. That's such an important part of the story, but keep going. I remember the car part now.
Yes. So because any hospice nursing listening knows that like, you still got to work. Just because your favorite patient's dying doesn't mean you can like hang out with your patient. You got to go to your next patient. So I like get in my car to go to my next patient and I just pause for a second, like, Julie, like, chill out, relax, like, just sit here for a second, you know, because I knew I wouldn't be back to his apartment, like, whatever. I wanted to take some time. So I sat there and I was like looking at his apartment and I was like saying stuff to him in my head, just hoping that like, I wasn't really sad. I was like happy for him. I was like, we did good by him. I hope he has a great like death journey, whatever it may be. And yeah, that's it. And just sort of saying like, thank you. You were so wonderful. And then all of a sudden in my car, I could hear his voice in my head. And it was kind of like I was transported to some place with no time or space. And I could hear his voice and he was saying my name, which was the most surprising part, the kind of jarring part. Cause he goes, oh my gosh, Julie. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, Julie. And I'm smiling as I share this because that's how it felt.
Yeah.
It was like, it felt so good. It was like, he was surprised. I'm getting chills right now just thinking about it. Yeah. And he made me feel what he was feeling, which was like, like, holy shit, this is amazing. Oh my gosh, Julie. Oh my gosh, if I only would have known. And he kept saying that, if I only would have known. And then the feeling was, if I only would have known how good this was, I wouldn't have been so scared. And it felt like he was almost soaring and he was excited and he was free. That's the biggest thing I felt. Like the feeling of like exuberance. It was like, he was so full of life and he just kept going, oh my gosh, Julie, oh my gosh, if I only would have known. And he was so excited and so happy. And the feelings I felt were so overwhelming. It was like instant, like weeping, like not just a little tear, like weeping in my car. And I was so happy and so full and so free and so like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like words here can't explain it.
Well, and that's what anybody says about like a near-death experience, right? It's that ineffability is what makes it. That's one of the definitions of it.
Right. And even explaining it back doesn't feel good enough. You know, it's like not good enough to explain what it was.
Because you were almost with him on that journey. Like you felt the way that he felt.
I felt the way he felt. Hence why I was like weeping, tears of joy. it was like tears of joy for him, but it was like tears of joy because of how I was feeling too. He was making me feel this like intense power and joy and like freedom. And the fact that I know he was not free in his day-to-day life, generally for his whole life almost, made me so happy for him that he was feeling this, you know, and I could feel how happy he was that he was feeling this. And oh my gosh, Julie, as little as that sounds, was so powerful. It was like, if I only would have known, oh my gosh, he was like celebrating with me. And this probably lasted for like, I mean, literally max 30 seconds.
Right.
Very short time. But then all of a sudden it was like, boom, I was back in my car and like, it was done. And that's when it was like more real. Cause it was like, now I feel the reality of like here, which did not feel the way I was feeling. Right. And now I'm like back in my car suddenly and like not hearing a voice and not feeling the feelings and just sort of like crying in my car. And it was kind of like, whoa, what the hell? What was that?
You literally felt like you had an out of body experience with this.
Yes,
as well.
a little bit. I wouldn't say like it felt like I was literally out of my car. It just sort of felt like, yeah, I was still in my car, but I was in a different place.
Dimension.
If that makes sense. Yeah, different dimension. It didn't feel like my car. And I didn't know that until I was like back in my car.
Right.
Once I was like back in the car, it was like, oh, I was gone for however long. And again, probably was only 30 seconds, but it felt longer than that. But because when I was there, it was like kind of like time didn't exist.
Do you feel like that changed you, that experience? It's been a while since I've talked to you about what I'm up to. I want to first start by thanking so many of my supporters who have supported me on Patreon and in my Circle community. What's so exciting now is we have my new Circle community up and running, where if you want to contribute to supporting the podcast, you can do so at different levels for different values. So head on over to my Circle group. You can actually find the link in the show notes below. And there's opportunities to continue to support the podcast. And I have to say, your support of the podcast is frankly what has kept this podcast going over time. I have been funding the podcast solely by myself. I get a little bit of money in advertising dollars, but not a lot. So anything that you can give, if you have found value in this podcast, and it's not just giving without anything back, I will give back to you. You will be a part of this community with opportunities for discounts and conversations and ask Amy anythings. But it's a great opportunity for you to support what hopefully has helped you over the many, many years. Also, there's so many other ways now that you can work with me. I am offering a group course called Live Your Life Backwards, which is finishing its first cohort this winter and has been absolutely incredible. There's retreats coming up. There's workshops. There's one-on-one sessions with me. So many options that we can work together. So make sure you're subscribed to my YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed to my podcast, and make sure you're subscribed to my newsletter, where you will get a free soul wisdom workbook to help you dig deeper into the virtues that you want to be living in this lifetime. We all need so much more spirituality now. We are in a spiritual crisis, and I'm giving you so many tools to tap into your own spirituality. So check out, and don't forget to subscribe to Life, Death, and the Space Between so you never miss an episode.
Yeah, I think it validated me more than anything, because what was also crazy in that moment when I was back in the car, right? I got a text from the nurse inside. And that's the part that kind of brought me back too. It was like, I got a beep, and it was a text saying, so, Randy just died. And it was like, holy shit. I feel like he just showed me that whole like transitional period, maybe, right? Of like him, crossing over, for lack of a better word, right? And I didn't say that to her because I didn't know her. I didn't tell anybody except for my best friend, Jenny, for years about this. Because it's never happened to me before. It hasn't happened to me since. I didn't know what it was. And it did change me to an extent, but I've already had experiences like that on my own, in the sense of like the feeling of joy and peace and freedom, and me kind of knowing that like this isn't the end, and that like I'm going to go to a place that I feel like is going to be more like home than here ever could. I've already thought that. So this was like a validation of that.
Right,
Like, oh yeah, okay, this is like what I was thinking it would be like. And yeah, I mean, and then I didn't tell anybody for a long time because I didn't know what it was and I didn't know how to explain it or what to say or what would people think. But then as my platform grew, and people, like I said, I didn't say this story right off the bat. I didn't like start with this story at all. I mean, I think it was a year, maybe even 2 years before I said anything. But people used to say, well, why aren't you afraid of death? Why aren't you afraid of death? Why are you so sure? How are you so sure? And it's like, well, because many stories, but this is one of the big stories of why I'm so sure and why I don't feel afraid. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to tell people there is a reason why. And this is one of the reasons, one of the big reasons. So I'll see what happens.
So it's never happened again. No. Do other hospice nurses that you work with have these experiences as well? Like, is this common in the hospice space that they've had these experiences or some sort of spiritual, mystical experience?
Right. I have to be honest. I don't ask. I don't talk about it.
It's so interesting to me. Like, I wonder this all the time because I work with a lot of physicians and I wonder how many physicians have had some sort of spiritual experience in their OR working with a patient and they never speak of it either. But like they had these profound experiences.
I feel like, and this is just my experience, generally speaking, nurses to nurses, doctors to doctors, I feel like we keep it pretty medical. Like even my job as a hospice nurse, I think people think I walk into someone's home and go like, are you afraid to die? Like, let me help you. It's not like that. I act like I'm a nurse. I talk about nursing things and medical things and physical things that they're going to experience and how we can help physically. Very rarely do I get into anything spiritual. Or no, I mean, I never do unless
that's
they
the chaplain's role, right?
Yeah,
like
that's the chaplain's role, right? If they can talk to me about what they experience, even if they say, I believe in God, I believe in an afterlife, I don't go, me too, you're right. I just listen and go, I'm so happy you have this. I don't share with them my experiences because I don't think it's my place.
Unless they watched you on everywhere and then they know. So they don't need to ask. What is your, you talk about, so there's that shared death experience. You've talked about the angel healing, which people, you did not, I don't think, I'll now have to go back and listen. I don't think you talked about the beginning of that story, but I think I remember the end of you sitting in the car and that happening to you. And then you've talked about that amazing angel story, which people need to either listen to my podcast or it's on YouTube for them. Deathbed visions, like that deathbed stare.
Yeah.
Something else you see. Can you talk a little about that? Or love? Is that the same as the loved ones that show up?
No, visioning is different than the death stare. So visioning is when like people see dead relatives or loved ones or old friends, pets come to them, dead pets come to them. So if people are wondering, yes, people see their old dead pets a lot.
That's so interesting. What is it about the animals? The love, probably. The unconditional love.
Yeah. People definitely, and animals, and not dead animals that you just have as a pet right now. Also, I do think can sense that you're dying and will protect you and sometimes take on your symptoms, lay with you until you die, look for you after you die. I think they can see their dead loved one who's a spirit. You know, I've seen that too. I mean, I think they're just connected.
What do you see with that? Like the dogs, like standing in the corner?
Just like staring in a corner, or like stares at the couch where their loved one was, puts a paw up, will like bark and play with something that you don't see.
I mean, I feel like I've had that experience with my pets where I feel like they're like looking off into the yonder and I'm like,
oh my God, I know.
There's for sure they see something over there. Like for
sure. Or how about little kids?
Oh
my God. My best friend, Jenny, she called me, this was years ago, like when our kid was like just saying like mom and dad and whatever. She called me and was like, I can't remember what she called her grandma, but it was something that you wouldn't normally call a grandma. Like not Nana, but nanny or something that was very different. But she was just like, oh my God, her son's name just like pointed and said Nanny or whatever her grandma's name was that he has never met. She died many, many years ago, like knows nothing about this woman, and pointed and smiled and said her name. It's like, oh my God, little kids.
It's amazing.
Yeah. But the death stare, I keep not answering your questions.
No, I love it. This is why I was like, let's just turn it on and talk and we'll see where we go.
I know. The death stare is just exactly what it sounds like. It's like someone who, you could be talking to them. I've seen it as clear as like they're making eye contact with me and talking with me. And then all of a sudden they'll just like stop and then look up like this and then look up. And like, no matter what you do, you cannot like break what's happening. And they're usually staring up at the ceiling or staring up at the corner. And sometimes they'll smile. They'll smile and do it. Sometimes they say like, Mom. Sometimes they give a little reach, like they're reaching for somebody. And, as long as they're okay, as long as they're not hurting anybody or hurting themselves or not enjoying themselves, like, it's like, just go with it. Who knows? I am not here. I really do not. I like talking about the mystical stuff, but I never want to claim that like, I know what that means. Or like, I know what it is and what it means if someone is doing that. I don't know. Even with the shared death experience, I don't know. I know what I believe, but I know it's just a belief. So I'm not ever here to like try to convince someone that those things are happening because it's definitely real and their mom's definitely in the room. That's not why I'm here. I have no idea what it means. I have no idea that if it's real, but I just know it happens. And I know why. Like people always say, oh, it's because their oxygen's low or they're on a bunch of medications or they're having delirium. No, I'm a nurse who's been a nurse for 16 years. I know what delirium looks like. I know what agitation looks like. I know what hallucinations look like. I know what low oxygen looks like. I can tell you it is not those things because most of the time people are not having low oxygen. They are not on a bunch of medication. They are not having delirium because delirium looks very specific. So I know what it's not. It's not those things. But I don't know what it is, but I know it happens.
You don't know for sure what it is, but you know it's something that's unexplainable and that's mystical and leaves you going, what could that be? There's almost a suspension of belief in that.
Yes. And it brings comfort. And it brings comfort. So even if it is, let's just say it is, years later, we find out that it is biological, right? Okay. I don't know. It brings comfort to people who are dying and the people around them.
Don't you think
so? That's amazing. If our body does that to bring us comfort, how beautiful, how amazing.
But you kept saying like, I don't know if it's real, but it is real because your experience of what happened in that, you don't know that meant that he was crossing over, but you had a very real, profound experience that shifted how you potentially viewed this, even though it had happened before. I'm assuming like the first time, like whenever that first time was, just like my first time when I had a visit, it was as real as you and I are talking today. So do I know for sure that when my aunt died, she's in an afterlife and she came over and this was her talking to me? 100%? No, but like 99, it was very real.
Yeah. You're like it. Yeah. Right. That's true.
Was real.
Yeah. My experience was very real to me.
Right.
Right. Yes.
So, I mean, I could keep talking to you for hours. Any other mystical experiences you've never shared that you're gonna hear it here first?
No.
Oh,
I go like I hesitate because
Julie,
I'm like,
save one for me next time.
I know, right?
Breaking
there's
news.
So many, like, they're not little. There's so many that happen that, like, that's what I mean is like they happen so often that it's like not even like really crazy anymore. And they don't happen to me, right? But I mean, countless people have told me about their stuff, but it's not like it registers a lot with me because it happens so often. I don't have any lasting secrets about it.
Do you ever have people who report like as they're in the process of dying and they're conscious enough to like report back that they have had like a near-death experience, or that they've experienced their soul leaving their body, coming back, leaving their body, coming back?
No, I haven't had that.
Bummer.
People always ask. No, I haven't had that. And if I've ever had someone say something that was like wild or like, you know, mystical, it's usually like weeks before they die. Not right before they die. Yeah.
Right. So, but in the weeks before they died, they've shared like this has happened or that's happened.
Yeah, but it's not like, oh, I've seen the afterlife and now I'm back. It's usually a vision. It's usually a vision or the death stare, or they say they see an angel or things like that. Yeah.
Got it.
It's not like I went over and now I'm back. I have not experienced that with a patient.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last plug for your book.
You want me to plug it? You want me to tell everybody?
Book. Tell everybody all about it, because we touched a little bit on it, but
yes.
We touched on a lot
of my new journal, the Nothing to Fear journal, is out now. I love journaling personally. I don't know about you, Amy. I've journaled my whole life. I have like literally decades of journals. So I was so excited to do it. The journal we call it a journal, but it is a workbook. There is like tons of pages for you just to free write, but there's a lot of pages where it's like there's questions, so they can kind of get you thinking about certain things, to contemplate things. So the Nothing to Fear journal is out now. It is in conjunction with my book, Nothing to Fear. You can do one or the other or both together. And the book is also on Audible if you don't like to read and like to listen. The Nothing to Fear book is there, but the journal, no, you need the actual physical journal to write in it.
Are you the Audible version of the book?
I am. Yes.
Ooh, love that.
Yes.
Well, Hospice Nurse Julie, thank you again for your time. You're just a ball of light always when I feel like I talk to you, and I know that's how you show up. Always. So thank you for being such a light in this world, and something that the world needs is more comfort around this topic. It's so important. Nothing to Fear journal. Go support my dear friend, Julie, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks, guys.
Like what you heard today and want to hear more? Wondering what comes next and what it all means? Head over to Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, or anywhere you get your podcasts and hit subscribe. Also, if you could take a minute to rate and review my podcast, I would really appreciate it. Stay tuned as we continue to explore life, death, and the space between.